Welcome to the Real Estate Growth Network podcast, the Regen Pod. Today, we talked about some really interesting things to help move your business forward. One of them was about the baby boomers. Believe it or not, they make up almost half of the people transacting in today's market. The good news, they have equity and a lot of them are paying cash. So we talked about ways that you might be able to attract those people. And lastly, we dove into the thought process around certainty, probability, and uncertainty, and knowing who you are, which helps guide what you actually want and what you're willing to do for it. So stay with me till the end and enjoy. And here is a real estate titan that is pushing the limits on the status quo.
And it took years and years of failing to get where I am today.
You're like, whoa, where you actually get the most clarity.
That was kind of one of those pivotal moments when I started building a business.
I spent a lot of time becoming an expert salesperson.
All right, today, Market Monday. So we're diving a little bit into the market. I came across this information last week. I already knew roughly what was happening in this segment, but this actually put some numbers to it, and it was pretty interesting. And honestly, if we are all strategic, you can leverage this to create a focus inside of your business. So this is baby boomers and how they control the market. So this is an incredible number. So first of all, 42% of all home buyers are currently baby boomers. So that's 55 plus. 53% of all home sellers are baby boomers. So over half of the people selling their homes right now are 55 or older. Now get this, if half of the market is transacting their baby boomers, half of the baby boomers are paying cash. So think about that. If they're paying cash, what does that mean? Who is not rate sensitive currently? It's that half of baby boomers. So if you think about it, if 42% of all buyers are baby boomers, that means 25% of the market is guaranteed a cash offer. They're close to 25, maybe 22, have cash to put down. So that's a large segment of people that are not rate sensitive. So all of this news out there that we are constantly hearing about where rates are going up, going down, going left, going right, none of that really matters if this becomes a segment of your business that you focus on. So here's some interesting numbers to go over, and then I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Most baby boomers have advantages to focus on as a real estate agent because number one, they have equity. So most baby boomers bought between 15 and 40 years ago. So most of these people that are starting to enter the market, which is about over 50% of sellers, they bought 15 to 40 years ago. So think about the amount of equity that this group of people have. So they often sell and then buy their next house outright. So if you have a focus on this 55 plus segment, they're also a buy and a sell. Obviously, they have less rate sensitivity because of the equity and because of the fact that they might be paying cash. Think about this though. If they have a lot of equity and let's say they're putting 50% down, there's still a lot less rate sensitivity than you would see if someone had to put only 3.5 or 5 or 10% down on a house. They're going to be a lot more rate sensitive than someone that's putting 50, 60, 70% down on a house. And then the other piece of this is most of these people are making lifestyle shifts. So they're gonna sell and buy no matter what. So there's nothing really going on in the world or in the market that's going to cause these people not to transact. So some examples of what those lifestyle moves might look like: downsizing, relocating to be closer to family, moving to warmer climates, and then moving into single level home or low maintenance homes. So those communities with, where the landscape is done for them, those types of communities, 55 and older communities, you're seeing a lot of movement reasons that fall into that. So what are you guys hearing? First of all, I've got some more stuff to go over, but like first and foremost, what are you hearing when I kind of go over these numbers? Do you guys see it as an opportunity?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I guess the question would be, if half the sellers are over 55, how would your business need to change today to attract those people? And I have some ideas, but I'm curious what you guys think. If half of sellers are 55 and older, what would have to change in your business today?
I think I need to work on my scripting and how to attract 55 plus buyers when I'm doing open houses.
houses.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Or you can help Kara out and do some social media content in her golf community, because guess what? That's where they like to live.
So, Kara, actually, really good point. First of all, help Kara. Second of all, really good point is identifying where these people are moving and why they're moving there. And then how do you create messaging that draws those people to you? So those are called MOFers, make offer for immediate response. So how do we craft messages that specifically target that group of people? What would that look like? What are they, if you were crafting a message, where are they moving that you would need to craft a message?
Are you looking for low maintenance lots in a gated community in Star?
Low maintenance lots, gated community. Gated community, by the way, huge benefit for that generation. So if you said that, Matt, like where would you put it? Where would you say that?
I feel like that's got to be on Facebook.
Ooh, why Facebook?
Because that's the boomer generation social media platform.
So what I hear you saying is you could have a completely different message on Instagram than you have on Facebook because you're targeting two different demographics.
Absolutely.
Super interesting. What about this? Like we talk about this a lot. We've talked about it multiple times, but we are big believers in constant messaging to your avatar through what we call the deal of the week. So we could target luxury buyers if we wanted. We could target luxury sellers. We could target first-time home buyers. But the math says the best people to target because they have the most equity. They likely are paying cash. They're not rate sensitive. They have to, or for, they don't have to, but for preferential reasons, they're going to move. So what if your deal of the week messaging was all designed for the 55 and older crowd? Now, I don't think it would hurt you in like, I don't think someone's not going to call you about real estate if you're sending out messaging about gated communities or low maintenance living. So does everybody know what the deal of the week strategy is? Who doesn't know what that is? Does anybody not know? Do you want me to explain it?
Yes, please.
Okay. So just real quick, deal of the week, very simple. You can pull anybody's listing that's on the market, that's listed, and you can include it in what's called a deal of the week email. So deal of the week is you basically give all the information except for the address. And the exclusion of the address is the part that allows you to send this information out without asking for the permission, the express written permission from the other agent. The second you put the address, now you're directly marketing that specific listing with the word direct being emphasized. When you directly market someone, you're supposed to get the express written permission of the listing agent. So if you remove the address, then your messaging in the subject line would say deal of the week, colon, and then what it is. Low maintenance living in Eagle, Idaho. Deal of the week, gated community in Star. Deal of the week, single level home. So all your subject lines would be designed to speak to that 55 plus community. Then in the body of the email, very simple. The body of the email is just bullet points about the house, including the price. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, fully landscaped, with a landscaper, community pool, gated, whatever the amenities are, $550,000. Reply back if you are interested or you know someone else who might be. That's it. That's the email. It's simple text, no images, no blocks, no decoration, no header, no logo. Literally it should look like you just typed it out. That's how it should look. Simple text, simple typed out, shout out to your people with your deal of the week. That's going to do a couple things. It's going to reinforce to your database that you are a busy, influential real estate agent. It's also going to signal to people who are interested in real estate, but that's not what they're interested in. They may reply back and say, well, I'm not looking for that, but I am looking for this. So it's a great way to still lead generate, but then you use the messaging in the deal of the week to actually align with the avatar that you want to target. And that should be the same. You should send the same avatar messaging every week. So if it's 55 and older, for instance, it would be gated, single level, low maintenance, landscape covered, like 55 plus community, like anything like that would be the subject line messaging. If you were attracting luxury, then you would say, estate or, private drive or those types of things that draw in luxury. That's deal of the week in a nutshell. And if you do apply that, like that's a lot of communication information to your people that is low pressure, it's not a nuisance, and a pretty low unsubscribe rate based on our experience. So you don't get a ton of people unsubscribing from something that's simple text, that's simple, that comes through their email. They just delete it if they don't want to see it. All right. So what else are you guys hearing? What else could you do with this information?
So I've been thinking about targeting older buyers or older, homeowners in my area. So I have a search set up in, one of those titled toolboxes that a title company set me up with that essentially pulled all the homes for that have 2 stories that are, on an acre or more. And, when I think of this demographic, I think of the ways that they communicate. And Matt talked about Facebook, that's the correct platform, but they're talkers, they don't have the aversion to talking to people that the younger generation does. And they have fewer people to talk to. So they're going to be much more generous with their time if you actually call them.
Probably even have a landline. A lot of them probably still have a landline. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
think about this. Like, what if you were able to identify those types of target people, or even like 55 and older communities where you get to know the people there. You go door knock, you get to know them. You after you get their name and number, you start inviting them out to coffee. You start getting close with that group. Well, then I think what would happen in that particular instance, if you're close with a group in that 55 or older community, they have friends that are also 55 and older. So you could start to nurture and curate those relationships to generate referral business and become the person that services that clientele. So yeah, great point, David. Someone else was going to jump on.
Yeah, Brent, I had a question. Do you think that the strategy is just as effective for posting on Facebook or doing an email, or have you found that email is the better option?
I mean, email is efficient, but email also requires reputation. So meaning if you are mass emailing and you have low reputation, you'll land in spam. If you've never really done it, you'll create a bad reputation. So there's a warm up period and a process in order to get your URL properly primed to email correctly. So there is steps to email to do it effectively. I would say with Facebook, the nice thing about that is it's algorithm driven. So if you're posting stuff that those people would want to see because of what they've been searching and they're in your community, then the likelihood of them seeing it is high. You could also, through Facebook, you can do events. So you could start doing, 55 and older events like, hey, learn about all the different types of properties for baby boomers or whatever. So I think Facebook is a great tool. And there's a lot less risk in regards to like putting out mass information and mass mofers and just doing it at scale versus email. You can run risk if you don't approach it right. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah, no, that helped. Appreciate it.
yeah, but also like just being strategic with getting in front of those people, getting their contact information, getting them into your CRM, having them accept you as a contact, having them open and read your emails, that will definitely help too. All right. So we got 9 minutes left, guys. I want to jump into something where my head's been on something that is more of like a perspective. Just with everything going on in the world, I don't think we can talk about this enough. So I'm gonna pull up the whiteboard real quick for you guys and just go over something over the next 9 minutes, and hopefully you leave with a different perspective. So let's see here. All right. So there are 3 types of variations of certainty in the way we see things. So the first one is uncertainty. The second one is probability. And then the third one is certainty. And so basically what sits in the middle is probability. And what that means is, certainty is, for 100% fact, the thing. That's what certainty means. Uncertainty means you don't know the outcome. You don't know the facts. You don't know what is or isn't fact. And then probability is anything in between. Probability actually can lean or direct you any direction. So probability, you can have a probability of something not going the way you thought, or you can have the probability of it being exactly what you thought. So here's some things that I've been thinking about, and a mentor of mine said this. So that question was asked, what are the things that you should be certain about? In a world of uncertainty and a world full of different probabilities, what are the things that you should be 100% certain about? So the first thing is who you are. It's the first thing that you should be certain about is who you are. The second thing is what you you want. And then the very third thing is what you're willing to do. So if you are certain about these three things and nothing else, then nothing else matters. And so let's unpack this just a little bit, and then I'll open it up to you guys' comments. But knowing who you are. So there is a high likelihood if you go out into a public place and you ask 100 people who they are, they'll give you surface level information. They won't actually tell you or be able to tell you the standards that they represent. They won't be able to tell you their core values. They won't be able to tell you their perspectives on life. So knowing who you are is the absolute number one thing you should be the most certain on. Here's why. Because when you know who you are, it's much easier to know what you want. And here's what I mean by that. So we can get wrapped up in wanting something and it has zero alignment of who we actually are. And so if we are wanting things that aren't in alignment with who we are, that's how we get in this perpetual trap of chasing things for happiness or chasing things for joy, and versus wanting the things that actually matter to us and who we are. And then the third thing that you should be absolutely certain on, and we talked about this last week and I think a couple of weeks ago, is what you're willing to do. Chase says, like, if you really want something, the way you prove it is that you're willing to do anything to get it. And I think last week in our coaching moment, he told the story, like this guy said, hey, who wants to make all this money in real estate? And 6 people raised their hand. And he said, are you willing to do anything it takes? And they said, yes. He said, great. Show up New Year's Day at 6 a.m. and I'm going to show you what to do. Only one of the 6 showed up. It's because they weren't actually willing to do whatever it takes to get what they thought they wanted. It's because what they want didn't actually align with who they were. That's why 5 of the 6 people didn't show up. All right. So what are you guys hearing when I say this? What's going through your minds?
Change who you are, or change what you want.
Say that again, David.
You either need to change who you are or change what you want. Like, I don't know. That just kind of popped into my head in terms of.
Yeah, I would actually, the only challenge I would give you is I think you need to not change who you are. I think you need to define who you are. I think you need to understand who you are. And if you don't understand who you are, then what you want becomes an uncertainty. It's not, sometimes what we want doesn't actually, what we say we want versus what we're actually willing to do to get it means that what we want isn't what we want. And that just means it's not aligning with who we are. So that's the only challenge I would give you.
What if it is what you want and who you currently are doesn't align with achieving or receiving what you want?
Okay. So that's a really good point. So what you're saying is who you're showing up as right now doesn't align with what you want. Okay. I don't disagree with that. I think someone would need to really dig deep and figure out who they want to be and who they versus who they currently are showing up as, which is the who you are. So yeah, you're right. It's a good point.
Well, what comes to my mind is the gap. I mean, I think almost everybody wants something that they don't have, but making that into something constructive rather than just lip service is the hardest part.
Bree, you said something that's really interesting, which is people want what they don't have. And I think that we're all pre-programmed. I think it's just a part of the human condition to constantly seek and want more. And wanting what you don't have for the sole purpose, and the sole purpose behind it is it's because you don't have it. I think that's where we get in trouble, right? Versus wanting what we don't have because the thing that we want that we don't have actually fulfills who we are. Super interesting. Someone else unmuted for a second there. Who was going to say something? Nobody.
Well, it's Bree again, but
no, you're right.
I was just gonna say, can you repeat what you said? Because I didn't compute. Can you say that one more time?
Oh, sorry. What I'm saying is a lot of times the human condition is we just want what we don't have. We just see things and we have a desire to accumulate and a desire to bring, to get things. So an example of that is that person has that level of success. I want that level of success. That person has that house. I want a house like that. But what we don't ever do is we don't slow down and explore. Are we wanting it because we don't have it? Or are we wanting it because it actually aligns with who we are and what we actually value in life? I think that's the challenge in our world is people don't understand who they are and what they're actually wanting. We just want things to want. We don't want things because it's who we are and and it will actually serve who we are.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
that's what I was pointing out is basically, I think what you said, which is, we want what we don't have, but then define that further. Why is it that we want what we don't have?
Right. So you're saying what helps with that is taking a few minutes or however much time you need, probably much more than a few minutes of writing down what defines who you are.
Yeah. A little hack though, like who you are is like the standards you represent, your core values, your purpose in life, like what's important to you and why. That's who you are. But another hack for the want aspect of it too, and a mentor of mine taught me this, is you should have a 30-day rule for anything that you want that's, I think above $50. You write it down on a piece of paper, and if you still want it after 30 days, get it. And if after 30 days you don't want it anymore, then you were wanting it to want it because you didn't have it, but it actually didn't align with who you were. Otherwise, you would still want it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, all right. So journal for you guys. Go and get introspective on who you are. What standards do you represent? Who do you actually want to be, and how do you want to show up? If you were to write your eulogy today, or your kids were to write your eulogy, what would they say about you? And what would you rather them say about you? That's who you want to actually be, by the way, is how you want to be remembered. So use that as a journaling prompt to go think about that this week. All right, guys, it's 9:32. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Hey, guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Real Estate Growth Network podcast, where we dig into real estate topics.
And we put these out every single week, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one.
See you later.